All right. Good morning. We are live once again at 8:52 here. Let me do a little shout out to Chatlandia. Here we go. All right. What's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here. Once again, it is the 3rd of December, and things are literally and figuratively heating up, even as the Northern Hemisphere gets cooler by degree with each passing day. Good morning, Coach K. Good morning, Misty Miner. Good morning, Beth Berry. I'm not sure I'm early. I'm actually technically 7 minutes late. Danica Rose, what's going on, Danica? How are you doing? Ian Barber, double C in the house. There's my man, Steve. What's going on, Steve? Mr. Thor by the door. Tea time with TCL. Hello, WC Ray. Frank Bry, what's going on, brother? Ferris Galen. Hello, Ferris. Nice to see you. Mary Grether. Hi, Mary. Let's see. Colleen, my friends. Colleen, all my friends. Hello, Colleen. There she is, JP. Brenda Zarafin. Hi, Brenda. Zarifian. Brenda Zarifian. Double M, Mark Matheny. What's happening, Mark? Wow, man, does Trump have the balls to declare martial law and stop the coup? Well, we'll talk about that today. I got some inside baseball. Came to me yesterday. Christy Tesmer, what's going on, Christy? Nancy Hardy. There is Michael, TJMC. Joe Mama in the house. T-Girl. Kestrel, what's happening? Let's see who else we got here. There's my man, Charles. Charles, I got to take a road trip to Mississippi. I got to hit the Indian Casino with you in Mississippi. That's on the books. That is on the books. 1-0 Dragon in the house. There she is. Lovely Renee. Don't walk away. Sigurd. Huntington. What's happening? You know what? I don't know why, Sigurd, that I'm connecting you with this, but I've been watching over the last 48 hours a lot of old Genesis, like Peter Gabriel Genesis. And I don't know why I'm connecting you with this, Sigurd, but Genesis circa 1973 to about 1976, mind-blowing. Peter Gabriel, mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Musicianship in the band, mind-blowing. It was before Phil Collins became a creepy guy. Anyway, for some reason, I'm connecting you with this era of Genesis, Sigurd. Ralph Winter in the house. Linda calling. Texas listening, picking up the other end. I'm going to road trip to Texas in December. It'd be great to see you, JMP. Shannon Jones, Natasha Lloyd. What's happening? If Trump doesn't stop the coup, Dems get in. Oh, well, we are really at the nexus point, aren't we? Genesis had their studio in the village I grew up in. Bang. Why did I get that? There's something there. By the way, I gotta go on record and say, Phil Manzanero is great. I mean, Phil Manzanero is a very underrated guitar player. By the way, he did a record called Primitive Guitars, which is very good, solo record. There are frontmen, right? There are rock and roll frontmen with swagger. That's a special group. I think maybe here are my top 6 rock and roll frontmen with swagger. I'd say probably number 1, even though I'm not really a fan of the entire catalog, I might have to put David Lee Roth number 1, or maybe Robert Plant. I go Robert Plant, David Lee Roth. Jim Morrison doesn't have the longevity, right? Jim Morrison, I would go. I'm not a huge Mick Jagger fan, although early Jagger's not bad. He just begins to look too weird, and he's a completely evil person. Michael Hutchence, In Excess, and who else? Like those are my top. Those are my top kind of swagger, rock and roll, kind of dangerous guys. Yeah, I think I put them up there. Chris Cornell has that vibe, but he doesn't have that. I don't know. He's got danger, but he doesn't have the swagger. You got to have swagger to be that. That said, I'm just talking rock and roll. I'm not talking about funk. I'm not talking about soul. Like I think those are the icons right there. I wouldn't put Bono used to be a good. Bono was kind of an amazing frontman for the first couple of records, and after that, not so much. And I'll tell you who's really underrated is Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots. He's very underrated. I think Scott Weiland was a total rock star. Total rock star. Now that said, I've got that out of the way. Like David Bowie is different. He's in a different category. Different category. Iggy Pop is in a different category. They're different. They're in a different. I'm just talking about rock icon, swagger, right? That said, Peter Gabriel has to be the most versatile, multi-talented lead singer ever. Ever. Like what he did in Genesis and how he evolved through his career is incredible. And if you have any familiarity with Peter Gabriel's discography, nary a clunker. Like almost every single album is just rock solid and watertight. But you go back and listen to David Bowie's catalog, and man, there are some bad tracks in Bowie, and there are even some bad albums in Bowie's catalog. Peter Gabriel, and every time I saw Peter Gabriel live, he never disappointed. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So I've been playing Watcher of the Skies over and over again. I get in these things sometimes, and I've been playing it over and over again, watching their two live performances. One is at the studios, I think, in your town, Sigurd, where they recorded, I think, Supper's Ready and Watcher of the Skies. When I was a kid, I used to listen to Watcher of the Skies over and over again. And there's a performance of them on the Midnight Special. And I watched this thing, and close up on Peter Gabriel's face, he never blinks. He never blinks. He's singing almost the entire song without blinking his eyes. It's like, that's how in character he was. Like he was a total watcher in that moment. It's incredible. Really incredible. And the musicianship of that band is just so amazing. So amazing. And you can really also tell like what a phenomenal drummer Phil Collins is. Like when he gets into some of those kind of swing fills in Watcher of the Skies, it's just fantastic. And I can see why Phil Collins sounds like Peter Gabriel when he sings. He does. He sounds like, because he harmonized with Peter Gabriel for the entire time they were together in Genesis. He was, mimicking his notes, right? But Phil Collins is kind of a creep, I have to say. He turned out to be a creep. Like there's a really weird call. Like there was Frank Bruno, who was, the champ for a while in England. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Frank Bruno is on the cover of Band on the Run, the Wings album. I'm pretty sure. And Paul McCartney is suspect anyway. So Frank Bruno is on this. I wonder if I should play the call. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find this thing. Now we're totally improvising. Hold on. Now we're flying by the seat of the pants here. Let's see. I think this might be it. Let's see. Where is it? All right, Frank Bruno. Let me find this thing. Ah, here we go. I think this is it. This is I think this is it. Just make sure. I think this is yeah, this is it. Let me play it for you. Okay, so here's Frank Bruno. It's a show called Savile and Star. This Is Your Life. And I think this is where Phil Collins calls in. Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is it. All right. Listen to this. This gives you kind of a weird, okay, it's Savile and Star. Frank Bruno, This Is Your Life. This gives you some creepy insight into Phil Collins right here. Check this out.
Sparring partner, of course, Freddie Starr. Freddie, anything you wanted to say?
Sorry? Yeah, Frank is one of the most hardest people to sort of buy a present for. No.
You bought me one, though.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did, yes I did, for Christmas.
What's
and
that?
you remember, it was a Black & Decker.
Your mum said, don't talk about that.
No, the thing.
Pass on that, Freddie.
Okay,
Freddie,
then.
cool down.
All right, then.
Calm down.
No, but it broke down.
The Black & Decker?
Yeah, it broke down.
It was all right on holiday, though.
No.
It turned on, mate.
Is this a private joke?
Yes, it is. It's a private joke, but what I'm saying is that I've come along here this evening to pay to a great man.
He's really crying.
That's good. Are you joking?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Tom Chevier is here representing the Prince's Trust, for which Frank is an official ambassador, and you have another letter.
Frank, I've brought you a letter this evening from the Prince of Wales, which I'm just going to read out at his request. Dear Frank, I'm sorry I can't be with you in person this evening to give you a terrible shock and probably embarrass you dreadfully, but I did want to add my congratulations to this well-deserved tribute. I would particularly like to thank you, Frank, for all the hard work you put in on behalf of the Prince's Trust. You've been an inspiration to many thousands of young people who have seen in you someone who from very modest beginnings has achieved great things. I can only salute you and give you my warmest best wishes. Yours most sincerely, Charles.
Thank you, Tom Chevier. It was, of course, Prince Charles who presented you with your MBE in 1990.
Yeah.
You often work for the Trust with another official ambassador, Phil Collins.
Frank, so they got you. Well, everybody knows Bruno the Brute, but what a lot of people don't know is the fantastic work you do for charity, and particularly with the Prince's Trust. So on behalf of myself and my fellow trustees and everybody at the Prince's Trust, and also all the kids whose lives you touched just through being there and showing that you care.
Did you see that? All right. So first of all, let's look at this. Frank Bruno does not really dig Phil Collins. Watch him here. Watch this.
Phil Collins.
Frank, so they got you. Well, everybody knows Bruno the Brute.
Look at him. Look at him. Okay, that is not a look of welcome, fondness, openness. He's very apprehensive here.
But what a lot of people don't know is the fantastic work you do for charity, and particularly with the Prince's Trust. So on behalf of myself and my fellow trustees and everybody at the Prince's Trust, and also all the kids whose lives you touched.
Did you hear that? All the kids whose lives you've touched. Look at the face on him.
Just through being there and showing that you care about them. Thank you very, very much. Have a good time tonight, and have a good time at the party afterwards. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Phil Collins.
Wow. Let me play that one more time. This is where you get an idea of like who Phil Collins is. Here we go. One more time.
Well, everybody knows Bruno the Brute, but what a lot of people don't know is the fantastic work you do for charity, and particularly with the Prince's Trust. So on behalf of myself and my fellow trustees and everybody at the Prince's Trust, and also all the kids whose lives you touched just through being there and showing that you care about them, thank you very, very much. Have a good time tonight, and have a good time at the party afterwards. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Phil Collins.
We're not
Something
done.
I know you enjoy doing, Frank, is running. You cover an average 40 miles a week, whether or not you're training for a fight, and you've competed in many half marathons for your favorite charities. Quite often your running partner is a famous knight of the road.
Now listen, Francis, turkey legs would have been okay, but chicken legs?
Sir Jimmy Savile. What has he been saying?
Now listen, what he has been saying. Under this drab exterior,
What decoracy?
listen, chicken legs, ladies and gentlemen, are these chicken legs? Are they turkey legs or chicken legs? That's what I want to know. In future, it's turkey legs, not chicken legs.
All right, turkey legs.
All right then. A man could be mortally embarrassed, but not yet. Thank you very much indeed.
Happy
Good
New Year to
morning.
you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Nice one. Yeah.
All right. Oh my God. So we have in one stretch Prince Charles, Phil Collins dropping some very dubious information there. Not dubious in the sense that it's not plausible, but man, that's not something. That's why Frank Bruno was apprehensive. He didn't know where Phil Collins was going to go. And then, of course, Jimmy Savile. Right? There it is, right there. Phil Collins, by the way, is a high-ranking Mason. So there we go. Chris Eubank was another English boxer he fought with. I met him back in college. Frank Bruno, I think, was caught up in some stuff. That's what I think. Yeah, the eye shifted totally. All right, let's do a little invocation here. Probably should have done it before that, but kind of got caught up. All right, here we go. Dear blessed and holy Mother, Father God of the great central Sun, within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua Sananda Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information, truth, wisdom, and knowledge come through this channel at this time, that everybody is accessible to it, and it runs through them to each and every other entity and life form that they touch. And we ask that everybody at this point in time who is gripped in the bear hug of fear, that they can relax and understand and know that everything ultimately will unfold in God's plan, God's time, and its own divine ordination. And in so doing, by using discernment and by using your ability to move through your life without fear, that you will know exactly what to do in every single moment that is given to you. We're all in the moment, and we're all in this moment together. If there's any karmic residue that we have, let it be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed at this time. Okay, let's go. So yesterday we had our little visitor. That was amazing. That was really amazing, right? That was kind of an amazing moment. If you watched yesterday's show, we had the will-o'-the-wisp in the room, and whoever or whatever you were, I got a good vibe off of it. I didn't get a bad vibe at all. And who knows? Maybe they'll show up again sometime if it's meant to be. But it was, if you go back and read some of the comments, they were very interesting comments. And one of the things that was brought up was, I think Natalie brought this up, was that there was a reflection coming from the street. I can tell you right now, there are cars and trucks going by all the time, and they don't reflect back there. And I was actually looking, like one just went by right now, and I was looking when this thing happened, kind of like, did somebody just drive by? And so I was kind of, checking in time to see what was happening there, and there was nothing, like, at least not on the street. And I went back and I actually looked at it, and there are times when I'm thinking, and my eyes will move back and forth when I think, right? Because I'm trying to figure out what I want to say next. And so there, you can see my eyes going back and forth, and then just before it shows up, right over here, right in this part, my eyes go up to the left 2 times. Like they shoot up to the left twice. So my sense is, and I'm very respectful of the woo. My sense is that my subtle body knew that it was coming. Like, and I think that's a really interesting thing, right? Because we think of ourselves as being just this, but there was another part of me that sensed it, that it was coming, that it was there. Go back and watch it. And again, I'm not bringing it up because I'm trying to hype it as like, some special moment. What I'm trying to illustrate is that we exist on a number of different levels. And so there was a part of me that was already engaged with that moment that I became more aware of as the moment unfolded. And I began to think a little bit more about the meaning and the significance of that. And I felt like in some ways it was more for you and for the people watching the video. I felt that's what it felt like. It felt like that it was some kind of confirmation that we're not in this thing alone. Okay, that's what it felt like for me, because it showed up, during the transmission. And the interesting thing about it was people were noticing in real time, and I love Seegers' comment is like, that was weird, right? So if you were paying attention, you saw it too. Now I don't know what the ultimate meaning of it is. I don't think it was negative at all. I didn't get a negative vibe from it at all. And I know people that are very sensitive, and they've gone back and watched the video, and they didn't think it was negative either. So I felt like it was a really positive kind of moment in time. And it had to do with, it was right on the heels of what I was talking about with Bill Barr. It was right at that moment. So I really felt like it was, for us to see, and that there's something bigger going on. There's something bigger going on than the physical theater that we're involved in. Yep. We're shortly after the 10-minute mark. That's right. Yeah. Let's see. Seriously, I watched it many times, and the shape appeared to me like a witch or a wizard hat with a brim. The tip of the triangle bent down. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you. Don't fuck with time. That's right. I see Mike Tyson was taking DMT and toad venom. Tyson's a trip. He's a total trip. To be fair, Phil bought me an ice cream when I was 4, and I didn't get filled afterwards. Consider yourself lucky. I will say this about Phil Collins. The guy was a badass drummer. He was a really good drummer. I think we tend to forget what a good drummer he was, because, the second part of Genesis' career, when they decide that they're going to really make a lot of money, I think we forget what a good drummer is. He's a fantastic drummer. And I'll tell you, man, I was watching some very early Yes as well. I'm in a progressive rock mood, right? I'm in kind of a throwback progressive rock mood. And Yes is a very interesting. They're a very interesting kind of, how do I say this? Yes is like unusual in terms of how they put their music together, because you can hear folk obviously in Yes, but like they've got a great, like, like Bill Bruford is just a beast on the drums, and Chris Squire, the bottom end of Yes, could really swing. And then you get Steve Howe, and he's got this interesting kind of hillbilly twang in his guitar, but then he can cut into like some like just vicious funk. I mean, Yes are a trip. They're really a trip. And if you want to go back and look at some of the early Yes videos, it's like they had these rock shows in Europe, like in France, Germany, and bands would travel around and they would go on these TV shows, and a lot of them were live. And if you go back and see Yes circa like 1973, 74, 75, and you watch a young Bill Bruford, oh my God, the guy's amazing. He's amazing. And he's so young, and it blows my mind how like incredibly talented. And that's the thing about the 70s with these bands, how young they were and just how incredibly talented they were. And you watch the guys from Genesis, Mike Rutherford and Steve Hackett. I mean, they're just incredible musicians. And they just, they put it all together. Fantastic. I can't even, hype it even more than I already am. And Supper's Ready. You listen to Supper's Ready, and man, Supper's Ready tells the story of post-war England. It's mind-blowing. From what I remember from the previous Jupiter Center, the veil between the worlds gets thin. Yes. Oh, Steve Howe, just tremendous. Very underrated. Very underrated. Like they always talk about, the great guitar legends, and Steve Howe is rarely mentioned, but he had such a unique style of playing. It's just incredible. And, and John Anderson hitting those falsetto notes consistently. I was backstage with Phil in Europe, and he walked on stage. He did a drum solo for 20 minutes. He was a monster drummer. Phil Collins was an amazing drummer. It's clear, especially when you listen to Watcher of the Skies, and he just gets into these jazz fills, and it's incredible stuff. It's 1 o'clock, time for lunch. Yeah, there you go. I need my own radio station. They didn't have video to suck the time away. What else do we have here? Heart of the Sunrise. Yeah, Brand X. Brand X is that interesting blend between jazz fusion and prog rock. Wasn't Alan Holdsworth the guitarist in Brand X? Trick of the Tail. Genesis was, they were something else. Amazing. And then Peter Gabriel on his solo career. All right, enough of that stuff. Let's go through the darkness now. We're going to go through the darkness. I got to show you what's happening. It's Escape from LA time. Jesus. What is going on? I mean, I know what's going on there. I know exactly what's going on there. Here we go. It's a precursor. It's a precursor to what's coming all across this country. Let me see. I don't want this one. Hold on. That's my Twitter feed. I guess I could just go here. Cron News. Let me see. No, I don't want that. Hold on. Go back. Here we go. LA residents ordered to remain in their homes in their amid COVID-19 surge. So KRON used to be an affiliate of NBC, and now I think KNTV Channel 11 took that mantle in San Jose. So they're just kind of this independent station. I don't know how they stay afloat. All residents within the city of Los Angeles should continue to remain in their homes and follow the city's safer at home order, which mirrors guidance from LA County. According to the mayor's office, a public order posted on the mayor's website Wednesday detailed many of the restrictions, including a ban on some travel with a variety of exemptions. Email, text, and text alerts from the city's Notify LA system also went out Wednesday. People may lawfully leave their residences only to engage in defined essential activities. What the fuck is that? Okay. Those experiencing homelessness are exempt from the requirement to stay inside. So guess what? If you're homeless, you are theoretically more free than somebody who actually has a home. You think that is by accident? No. Mirroring the county's order, all public and private gatherings of people from more than one household are prohibited, except for outdoor faith-based services and protests. Oh, okay. What kind of protests? Can you protest against the mask, or do you have to protest against racism? Failure to comply with the new health order will constitute a misdemeanor subject to fines and imprisonment, according to the document. The mayor urged Los Angeles Police Department and the city attorney to vigorously enforce this. My message couldn't be simpler, Garcetti said in his earlier briefing. It's time to hunker down. It's time to cancel everything. And if it isn't essential, don't do it. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the order of the day for communities across the U.S. But here's the truth. We're in for a long, hard winter. As the worst hits us, stay at home as much as you can. Hunker down, LA. We'll get through this together. Let's hear what it is. Do I have the sound on this? I don't think so. I don't think I have the sound. Let me go back and let me plug the sound in on this. Let's hear what Herr Garcetti has to say. Give me 1 second. I didn't plan on sharing the audio on that. Let's just do it anyway. Here we go.
My message couldn't be simpler. It's time to hunker down. It's time to
look. He's fucking smiling. He is doing the duper's delight. Watch him.
My message couldn't be simpler. It's time to hunker down. It's time to cancel everything. And if it isn't essential, don't do it.
He's having to restrain himself from cracking up.
Don't meet up with others outside your household. Don't host a gathering. Don't attend a gathering. And following our targeted safer at home order, if you're able to stay home, stay home. My message couldn't.
He's duping. He's doing the duper's delight. He's having an extreme challenge from dispersing audible laughter. All right. So what else is happening in LA? Well, Orange County now seems to be under some form of retribution and attack. I got to find this thing now. Where are we? There are major fires now breaking out in Orange County. Let me see if I can find this thing. Give me 1 second. I just had it. Hold on. Here we go. This is 28 minutes ago. It's called the Bond Fire. The Bond Fire. I'll show you. There it is. Bonfire spreads rapidly, forcing more evacuations in Orange County. A wind-whipped and rapidly spreading wildfire was threatening homes in Orange County, prompting evacuations. Early Thursday, a mandatory evacuation was in effect for residents of Silverado Canyon, Modesto Canyon, and Williams Canyon as the bonfire exploded to more than 3,600 acres. The Orange County Fire Authority said structures were threatened in Silverado and Williams Canyon. By 6:35 a.m. Thursday, authorities had expanded the mandatory evacuation. So here we go. Hell comes to Orange County. Voluntary warnings are also in effect for Borrego Canyon, Baker Ranch, Live Oak Canyon, Trabuco Canyon, Rose Canyon, on Valley Vista Way, Meadow Ridge Drive, and in Lake Forest from the 241 along Bake Parkway to the James A. Music Jail north to the Irvine border. So it's getting close. And from the 241 to north to Bake and Foothill Ranch. So let's check out the map. Here we go. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, so here we have, this is where the fire is happening, right here in the foothills. And they do get the Santa Ana winds. I usually think that they come in around February, right? January, February with the Santa Anas. Anyway, here's where the fire is. Here's Irvine, rather. Then we have Costa Mesa and Laguna Beach. And above, there's going to be Newport Beach here. And then to the north of that is going to be Huntington Beach. Now, Orange County has been the resistance for the pandemic and the coronavirus. And it's interesting now that we have a major fire that's encroaching from the eastern part of Orange County. Keep an eye on this, because if it gets into this lower area here, you know, if it begins to get even closer to Irvine and Santa Ana, there could be real trouble, and they could force evacuations. And I feel like that's retribution. That most fires, and this came to my attention many years ago when I would see these fires, and I would say, these fucking fires are arson. They're arson. They're being set on purpose. And I was making these connections like back in the 90s. And as time has gone on, we've seen just how purposeful and just how much there was a dark intent around a number of these fires. I lived through a big fire in San Diego in Escondido, and there were 3 fires happening simultaneously. And one of them was set in an area where the area had rejected a training center for Blackwater. And oh, guess what? A few months later, there's a big fire. This was in eastern San Diego County. And I'm not saying the two are connected. I'm just telling you, there was this one event. They said, we don't want the Blackwater Training Center here. And then a few months later, there's a fire in the same area. Coincidence? Perhaps. Perhaps. So now we're seeing the one area that has been the tip of the spear and the resistance for what's happening in California. We've got a major disaster, big fire encroaching upon that area. And let's hope everybody is safe and they can But here's the problem now, right? You've got Gavin Newsom, who's running the state. You know, is he going to mobilize, you know, all the resources to fight the fire? I don't know. You can't trust him. You can't trust him to do that. And you can't even trust these mayors now. I'm going to show you just how untrustworthy these mayors are. Let me show you this. Here's another guy from LA County. He said this dude sounds like a real piece of work. He's in Lancaster. He's the mayor of Lancaster. He just crossed my radar this morning. LA County mayor says not wearing mask is act of domestic terrorism. A Los Angeles County public official was quoted by the Los Angeles Daily News as saying those who defy the public health order to wear a mask in public in response to the virus pandemic are guilty of an act of domestic terrorism. If it were up to me, anybody not wearing a mask when they are out in public would be arrested. That's an act of domestic terrorism. It should be treated like one. Lancaster, California Mayor Rex, of course his name is Rex Paris recently said. Paris's comment comes as his small town, 156,000, located in northern Los Angeles County, is in a county where cases on Monday recorded the worst day thus far. Come on. We know that do the cases result in deaths? No, they don't. They don't. Some people die, but people die of the flu. We went from tracking deaths and hospitalizations to cases. See, what they did is they established a beachhead with the deaths, right? They got a bunch of people on ventilators and basically terminated them. They had a bunch of people who died of something other than COVID. And then, of course, it was attributed to COVID. So they established a death count, as artificial as it was. And they put the fear of God into people's heads that a case would lead to a death. And that's not necessarily the case. It's perfectly understood for Paris to be frustrated considering the virus pan, blah, 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 whatever. Yes. And of course, here's Gavin Newsom, maskless, at French Laundry. He doesn't give a shit. Now, this guy, Rex Paris, is kind of a trip. By the way, you would think that Rex Paris is a Democrat. No, he's not. He's a Republican. At least that's what he says he is. He was called out. Here, I'll show you another. These politicians do this shit all the time. They do this shit all the time. Watch this. He happens to be a lawyer. Here it is. This is what I want to show you. This is fairly new. Let me show you what Rex Paris looks like. The times we live in, man. The times we live in. All right. I bet you he reps for Santa Claus. Right? He's got that Santa face. I bet you he dresses up in the Santa suit every now and then, if you know what I mean. Paris makes no apologies for purchase. His newest piece of real estate once belonged to Lee Iacocca. Oh, he's a man of the people, isn't he? Mayor R. Rex Paris has a new home, but it's not in the Antelope Valley. He purchased the Laguna Beach home for $6.627 million. That was the discounted price. It will be about a year and a half before we're into it because we're remodeling it, he said in a telephone interview. The Los Angeles Times highlighted the purchase in its real estate section earlier this month. The 4,852 square foot two-story home with an ocean view has 4 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. It needs a new roof, has some water leaks, but it also has a private beach. I just don't have to apologize to make for it. He doesn't. I would agree with that. If you can afford the damn house, you buy the damn house. Oh, here's the kicker. He owns another house, which he purchased about 8 years ago. It's about 3 blocks away from the new one, in a place where Paris and his wife, Carol Paris, use on most weekends throughout the year when they get away from Lancaster. Well, I'm wondering if he is going to be following Eric Garcetti's orders. There are serious security issues, Paris said. We're always getting calls that there's a credible threat. And next thing I know, there's a deputy standing there. The new beach house is something for the 6 grandchildren to enjoy. But he said his wife also has a compromised immune system, which makes her particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. So they have to have 2 beach homes. Do I think I'm even going to have that house in a year? Paris said, no. It was such a great deal. When we fixed the roof and do all this stuff, it was more of an investment than anything. So the grandkids can hang out there. He'll fix it up and he'll flip it. I'm not going to apologize for how blessed we've been. Carol Paris manages the Paris law firm's money and investments. It's really hard not to get angry when they somehow make a connection to financial affluence because we have put millions of dollars back into Lancaster, he said. It just enrages me when people think that I'm taking because we're not. He has to justify his wealth. Whatever. RX Paris says he takes his role as mayor of Lancaster seriously, as well as the protection of his home. I'm sure he does. The Laguna Beach Mansion's last owner was the late automotive executive Lee Iacocca, whose primary residence was in Los Angeles. He used the Laguna Beach house as a weekend getaway, which is how Paris said he will use it. It's a high security complex. Yeah, there you go. This is the guy that wants to essentially identify non-mask wearing people as domestic terrorists. There you go. And he's a Republican. Rex Paris, you've earned the award of douchebag of the day. Eric Garcetti's a close second. Maybe you guys can be the co-recipients of it. Santa face. Isn't that right? He's got Santa face. So he won't. Of course he won't. Lancaster is bad news. Lots of drugs. I would want to get away to a beautiful beach house too. Herd immunity. So all those cases shouldn't need the vaccine, correct? They have antibodies, correct? Correct. England, you're on the clock with the vaccine. Wales, you've got COVID passports in your crosshairs coming at you. The bullet train of absolute, utter medical fascism is speeding at us. Half the Republican Party is done. They're done. They're done. The Republican Party is done. They're showing their true colors, and they always have been nothing but, fat cat motherfuckers. That's who the Republican Party has always been. They say that they're so, down with the people, and they want to make sure that, people don't get overtaxed, right? And the Republicans and the Democrats have been turncoat globalists, outsourcing industry, not only in this country, but other countries as well, right? And I know that England, you don't have Republicans, but you have your own version. And they've just been out. It's been a global effort to outsource as much manufacturing as possible to China to build China's wealth. And in a lot of ways, we haven't had a whole lot of choice. In a lot of ways, we have some choice, but not a ton, right? Not a ton. Some wiggle room, but not a lot. In some ways, we've had to get on the China train to some degree, right? Very hard to find non-China products. I tried one time to find a French press coffee maker that wasn't made in China. I found one. That was it. One. And I spent hours going through Amazon trying to find one. But the Democrats and the Republicans have been, doing a bear hug on this globalism thing. And the Republicans don't like, and they've never liked, Donald Trump. They can't stand him because he is not a rhino. Now, Trump's got his issues and he's got his warts, and I've pointed them out, okay? But he is not part of their club. And he may have been a Democratic donor. He may have voted Democrat. He certainly gave money to people like Chuck Schumer and Bill Clinton. That's on the public record, okay? He's even admitted that. But he is not a rhino. He's not a rhino. Most Republicans are. They are. So what we've seen now is the decimation of the Democratic Party. It is really a flaming wreck on the side of the road based on the guy that they trotted out there, their absolute in your face, bold, audacious campaign strategy, which was the anti-campaign strategy. Right, we're going to keep him in the basement. We're going to have ridiculous rallies where maybe a dozen people show up and they're all in little circles and bubbles or whatever, right? They said, we're going to go in the opposite direction. We're going to do the anti-campaign. That's what they did. And of course you have, Biden, 4.0, Joe Headroom, the robotoid candidate. It's in flames. In flames. The Republican Party is in flames too, because now they're showing their true colors. Now they want to do a nice little handshake with the Democrats, and they want Trump out and the peaceful transition, because they just want to do deals. That's all they care about, is doing deals and keeping their position, their power intact. And people are finding this shit out. The Bill Barr thing was a big revelation. And again, I'm not here to play partisan politics. They're both burning down. Both houses are being burnt to the ground. If you're paying attention, this is what's happening. And the Bill Barr thing was a bonfire yesterday. Just a big bonfire. And it woke, if you were somebody who was still sort of, on that train, Bill Barr and Durham and all this shit, and he came out and he said that turned so many people yesterday. That was like they were popping red pills all day, right? It was just like a red pill pop session all day. It's all being revealed. Both sides are being shown to be equally corrupt. This is what's happening. And you see that guy, Rex Paris, he's a Republican. He's a fat cat. They're all fat cats. Bernie Sanders is a fat cat. What has he got? 3 houses? He got a shitload of money in 2 election cycles, none of which he has to give back, by the way. Like when you raise all that campaign money, you get to keep it. Boom, done. You don't have to give any of that back. He's got 3 houses now. He bought himself a $3.6 million house after the 2016 election. They're all fat cats. And they've all been jerking off China the entire time. Right? So burning down the house. That's what's happening. And guess what's left over? Us. We're the ones that are left over. We're looking around going, okay, well, they used to have our back, but they didn't. We thought these people had our back, but they don't. Oh, geez. What are we going to do now? We're going to have to really just have each other's back, and that's what it's about. Trump had a very interesting speech. I'm going to play this. It's about 2 minutes. Came off his Twitter feed. And there's 2 reasons I'm going to play it. Because number one, it's a very defiant kind of tone. Okay, so I'm going to play this. But there's also some anomalies about this I don't want to point out. So let me cue this thing up. This is how to, where'd it go? All right, here it is. This was from the press conference. Do I want to watch the full video? Let me see. No, I don't want to watch the full video. Hold on. Okay. All right. Hold. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I found it. All right, here we go. So this is Trump from yesterday. Now, it was a 50-minute press conference. I'm going to play you 2 minutes of the speech, and you'll see sort of the heart of this thing. And what's interesting here, I'm just going to play it, and then I'm going to share with you what I think is interesting about it. Here we go.
May be the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. As president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. For months leading up to the presidential election, we were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results. My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign. We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be. They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint a winner, even while many key states were still being counted. The constitutional process must be allowed to continue. We are going to defend the honesty of the vote by ensuring that every legal ballot is counted and that no illegal ballot is counted. This is not just about honoring the votes of 74 million Americans who voted for me. It's about ensuring that Americans can have faith in this election and in all future elections.
Okay. So one of the things that's interesting about this video is that he is not at the White House. This is green screen. You see that? This is a total green screen. He is not at the White House. I don't know where he is, but this is not the White House. Watch.
Got it. This election is done.
See that?
In fact, they were acting like they...
That was a digital glitch right there. Let me play it back.
You've got it. This election is done.
Right there.
In fact, they were acting
Right
like
there.
they already
Right
knew
there.
what the outcome was going to be.
Right
They
there.
had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country.
So he was not at the White House. He's not there. I don't know where he is, but he is not at the White House. That was a full-on green screen digital glitch. Yep, digital glitch. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share some inside baseball. Why is the flag with gold fringe there? Maritime law, right? That's why. I'm going to share a little inside baseball with you guys. So yes, I have a friend who lives in the southern part of this country, and he sent me some interesting information yesterday, and I actually have the visual information. I cannot share it with you though. I can't share it with you. But the information that he sent me was connected to one of his friends. Okay, this is not hearsay, and I can share what I'm sharing with you, but I can't share what was sent to me as a document. I can't do that. So I'm not speculating. I'm not talking out of my ass. His friend was commissioned just recently, friend's a welder, to do a bunch of work for Guantanamo, like within the last week. Okay, and these were rails. These are rails. That's all I'm going to say. Right? I can't show you the docs. It wouldn't be fair. But let me just tell you, they're there. They're real. Now you can make an assumption. You can say, well, you know, they do that work all the time. Quite possibly. But yesterday I talked about Pachinik, and again, Pachinik he's Dr. Sketch. He said, yeah, his neighbor in Florida who does prison work said they're extending the fence, extending the wall, and they're building it up 100 feet. Think about that, 100-foot wall. So Pachinik said that, and then I got this message yesterday. So something is up. Something is up. and we're going to see it. We're going to see it soon. And look, this could all just be, Nathaniel said, kabuki theater. There's always going to be an element of that, okay? There's always going to be an element of kabuki theater. Actors, players, playing roles. We're all playing roles to some extent or another. And that's always gone on. At the same time, there are also events that are transpiring that are, how shall we say this? Worth paying attention to. Now, while all the election stuff is happening, the vaccine thing is still going on. See, that's the other side of this. It's like we're dealing with all this election drama, post-election drama, because the election was totally ripped off. But the vaccine stuff is still happening, right? In England, you guys in England are scheduled to get the shots. And I'm going to tell you right now, you got to do everything in your power not to get the shot. Like, I'm just telling you, do whatever you want. Don't get it. In fact, I would even veer as far away from the testing as possible. I'm going to put a link in the description for today's show for an hour-long interview with David Icke and Celeste Solum. And I watched most of it yesterday. Celeste Solum is somebody who used to work for, I believe, FEMA. Now the weird thing about Celeste Solum, which I haven't really reconciled, is that number one, she signed an NDA with FEMA, and yet she completely obliterates the NDA all the time. And number two, if she did sign an NDA and she is revealing what's going on behind the scenes with FEMA, DARPA, and everything, then why wouldn't they just remove her at some point? Right? Or maybe she's playing a role and they have to let her, I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of, occult kind of agreement that they have to make. Anyway, I highly recommend that you watch the video. David Icke, I think, has been very consistent over the years. He has, Ike's had a few issues. We all have had a few issues, but, I think that he's been incredibly consistent with his work, and I like David. And when I first discovered David Icke back in 1996, I thought, this guy's got it. He's seen the light. And the interview is quite good. And what they talk about around the 50-minute mark should get your attention in a big way. And one of the things that Celeste Solum talks about is a young girl who got vaccinated, I think it was around 1986. And as she got older, she started to have real problems. And her mother took her to the doctors, and they did a brain scan, and they decided that they were going to go in and operate on her brain. And according to Celeste Solum, the surgeon was Ben Carson. Ben Carson operated on this girl's brain. And according to Ben Carson, this is what Celeste Solum says in the interview, that what they found in the girl's brain was the equivalent of glue, like glue that had formed around her brain. And they didn't know what to do. Like she died shortly thereafter. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't get in and remove this stuff. And it was way out of bounds for them medically. And, she basically was making a connection between the vaccines and these other agents that are floating around in our body and probably present in a number of the vaccines. So we're talking nanotechnology. By the way, most of us are loaded with smart dust and nanotechnology. Pretty much a given. Pretty much a given. I mean, we've been sucking that stuff in from the chemtrail skies for decades now. And the best way that you can deal with that material in your body is, number one, you have to drop sugar. You have to drop sugar, because sugar will feed mold in your body, right? It will feed fungal mold in your body. And it's my opinion, I'm probably not alone in this, that these very small machines are powered by the release of certain gases that are connected with the fungal mold. So if you can get rid of sugar and get rid of the fungal mold, for the most part, you will disable the ability for these little machines to operate in your body. And by the way, they can cross the brain-blood barrier. They can wreak havoc on a system. And we all mostly have them, okay? And most of them are pretty much inert until they get triggered either through an immune crash or maybe even an exposure with high-intensity 5G activation. So the best way to deal with that stuff is to get rid of the sugar so they can't power up. Okay. The vaccines apparently have a much more sophisticated array of this stuff. And it comes through what they call the hydrogel or the microdot. So you've got to be aware of this. Be very aware of this. And apparently, and according to Celeste Solum, what happens is that the body is taken over, the cells are taken over, and that the individual begins to be turned into a synthetic being, right? We no longer are carbon-based beings. This is really the crux of the Great Reset. And they've been working on this with plants for a long time. Let's genetically modify the plants. Let's take them out of their original analog state. Let's genetically modify animals. Let's genetically modify humans so that none of us have the original analog script in us. And then therefore, we're more susceptible and open to being jacked into the virtual mainframe. So I'm going to post a link to that interview. It is not for the faint of heart. Again, I will put an asterisk with Celeste Solum, who seems to know a great deal. She also worked for FEMA, signed an NDA. I haven't been able to reconcile that. But she is a wealth of very dark knowledge. And the dialogue with Ike is pretty good. Okay, what else do we have? Boron is good, yes. Yes, turpentine. If you can do the turpentine, that's good. Yes. What do we have here? Yeah, I'll post a link. Let's see. I take shungite daily to cleanse. Detox and cleanse regularly. Candidas. I wonder if nanos will be in the vaccines. Absolutely, they will. Absolutely. They'll become the RNA factory. They self-assemble. What else? Try the borax. You do the borax, you'll have some interesting things emerge out of your body. Bentonite is good. Yes, I would agree with that. Bentonite and psyllium husk work well together. Even Christine Northrup talks about the nanobots in the new vaccine. Yes. Just take a few fluconazole tablets. I've heard of that. Yes, I've heard of that. Certain drugs can trigger the nano. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Elena Freeland, says to take the chemtrail plastics out to take borax baths. All right, so I'm going to tell you what my experience with borax baths was. And it sounds crazy, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is absolutely what would happen to me. So I would take these baths with borax, with hydrogen peroxide, and with Epsom salts. And I would make the baths as hot as possible. And I would sit back in my bathtub and I would watch little things emerge out of my skin. Okay. I would watch them. And then I would watch them move. I could see them. They were moving, right? I would watch these things in amazement. And then I would watch them find each other and merge. I swear to God. It sounds completely nuts. I know it sounds nuts, but it would happen consistently. And they would merge together and they would create a more complex thing. I swear to God. I would watch this again and again and again. So if you do that, watch what comes out of your skin. You'll see things. It's a great detox. It really is. The other thing you want to do is if you do that, if you do the borax baths and stuff like that, you want to take coconut oil and rub coconut oil on your body afterwards, because coconut oil, number one, is a great moisturizer. And number two, it is an antimicrobial. So you bring in the coconut oil as well. Yeah, it is. How much in your bath, Robert? Well, you know, I was just intuiting, right? You know, whatever it was. I wasn't following any specific protocol, but I was heavy on the Epsom salt because I you know, that I was heavy on. I think, you know, maybe with the borax, maybe a couple of cups, and then, you know, I would just dump some hydrogen peroxide in there, heat it up, stir it up, and jump in. Baking soda, yes, is another thing you can do. Absolutely. Now the coconut oil is a good after. Yeah, it was. I'd sit back and I'd watch this thing, and part of me was like, kind of, this is fucking Twilight Zone, right? And another part of me was like really kind of interested in it. It's like, this is a trip, man. I'm watching something happen here that is unusual. So I was like repelled and fascinated simultaneously. Oh, you said you saw that happen to someone on the, yeah, it's there. It's there. Absolutely. Get rid of the sugar though. Just get rid of it, man. It's not your friend. It is not your friend. Okay, what else do I have here today for you guys? Anything else that I lined up? We talked about our douchebags of the day. Oh, yeah. Right. Here we go. I was going to play a little James O'Keefe. Apparently, he's got some more drops today. I love James O'Keefe. He's an Aquarian. And look, I know there's two sides to every story with everybody, sometimes three. But James O'Keefe he never disappoints on the entertainment scale. So basically, they were bugging some CNN stuff. So I wanted to play this. And this is how they were going to deal with Trump post-election. Here we go. Let's see if we hear this thing. You see this? 4.3 million viewers. This is a Periscope. 4.3 million viewers. This Periscope probably gets more views than Anderson Cooper. Right there. Boom. Right there. So what did some of the phone calls say? Well, let's find out.
CNN says on Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. editorial conference call how they, the Democratic Party, powerful interest groups, may determine how CNN will cover Trump not conceding the presidential election.
I just want to underscore something that Michael said earlier about the transition and Trump, because I've been talking to a lot of people this morning on both sides, and I just keep hearing the same thing, both from Republicans who have not come out to congratulate Biden, but also to those who have in the Democrats. And that is that we have to be, news organizations have to be very careful and very responsible about not giving Trump too much of a platform on his not conceding, because they feel the transition can go forward. And, other than the national security briefings, which are critical to start now, they just don't want us to exaggerate that Trump isn't leaving office. And I'm going to have a lot of specific reporting on that later today. But just big picture, wanted to underscore what Michael had said.
Yep, agreed.
On the issue of why it's important to get the transition going right, the 9/11 report talks about one of the problems was that the trouble that was brewing got lost during the transition. So if you want a good concrete example of what happens when you don't have a good transition, go look at the Twin Towers.
Yeah. So I think that's an important point. I think it was just a little bit yesterday in terms of national security. I think it's really important to raise again. I would encourage folks to think about, that 9/11 Commission report and the lack of transition.
So they're equating the lack of transition with 9/11. Okay. Now, apparently they got on Tucker Carlson for being a naked racist, and then and his show being White Supremacy Hour. Let's hear that. So none of this is illegal, right? None of it's illegal. And they do this shit all the time in media. But really, I think what O'Keefe is doing is he's laying the groundwork for more that's going to be released today and what goes on behind the scenes at CNN. And of course, how the coverage is prejudiced and slanted. We know that, right? We know that. But I think the part that's important here is to show and underscore just how little attention CNN is going to pay to the actual vote rigging. Okay, they're going to focus on the transition, and they're not going to give anything related to the voter fraud revelation any kind of time of day, right? So there are some people that still haven't got it yet, and they are getting it. They're going to see how intertwined all this stuff is. And when you see 4.7 million people watching that Periscope, that is really powerful. It's a very, very powerful number. And again, I think it's probably close to outranking whoever watches Anderson Pooper. All right, who do we have here? Let's see. They need to traumatize on a deeper level to get maximum number of people to voluntarily get the vax first round. Probably. 9/11 mass ritual. Well, we've talked about that before. Absolutely. I didn't hear the Periscope. Did you guys hear it at all? Tucker Carlson is a friend. They did a magazine together and other things. His name is R.K. Tucker is a deep state baby. He's a deep state baby. And again, I think Tucker Carlson, did a service, post George Floyd. And he was there for a lot of people that couldn't wrap their heads around what was happening with George Floyd, post George Floyd. I think that was, I'll stand by Tucker for that. And he addressed certain issues that were, I think, really important and politically very, very incorrect. I also think he's got his limitations, and we ran into some of those limitations. All right, you want me to start it over again? All right, here we go. I'll do the Periscope again. Let me go back. Hold on. I'll play one more time. All right, so here we go. Because apparently you guys didn't hear it. Let me do it one more time. Okay, it should work, and the audio should be good because it's loud on my end. So there it is, right? Breaking Project Veritas. Now he gets into the phone call. He gets into the conference call at CNN. Here we go.
You're unmuted. Hey, Jeff Zucker, you there? Hey, yes. This is James O'Keefe. We've been listening to your CNN calls for basically 2 months, recording everything. Just wanted to ask you some questions if you have a minute. Do you still feel you're the most trusted name in news? Because I have to say, from what I've been hearing on these phone calls, I don't know about that. I mean, we got a lot of recordings that indicate you're not really that independent of a journalist.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. So everybody, in light of that, I think what we'll do is we'll set up a new system, and we'll be back with you. We'll do the rest of the call a little bit later.
We're going to release.
So what he did is he basically crashed their conference call. That is genius, man. Somehow he got the call-in number for the conference call and let him know during the conference call. And then Zucker has to essentially end the call and then set up a new bridge. That is fucking, that's badass.
Those recordings today at 7 o'clock. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
So you just heard me talk to the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, and inform him that that we are going to release a number of recordings today. I unmuted myself into the conference line, and they're still on there. They're listening to me right now. This is being live streamed for those of you still on the call. And we've recorded for a while, and we have clips of various producers talking, the president talking, describing their motives, describing their political philosophy, describing how they don't cover certain things and certain political parties tell them to cover things a certain way. Lots of little clips. that takes us into the minds and hearts of our people, powers that be, that inform us, because government is downstream from media. So we're going to be releasing these tapes thanks to one of our sources. One of our brave insiders has given us this information. And as you can see, they're still milling about on the call. They're listening to me right now. They have to, quote, change their system and get a different dial-in, I guess, now, because we've compromised dial-in. Project
Well, I guess we
Detox.
need to change the channel, huh? Change the number, huh?
Is that Zucker there?
*6 again.
You're unmuted.
Hey, Jeff, you still there?
Yeah.
They're still on there. Yeah,
You're
so
muted.
we don't want to change the channel, really. We want to stay on the channel. We think it's important for the American people to know how you make the sausage, right? How you, to quote Noam Chomsky, manufacture consent. You know, consent should not be manufactured. It should be informed. People should be an informed populace to make informed decisions. So there you have it, folks. Live streaming the CNN 9 a.m. conference call. It was abruptly ended when James O'Keefe.
Thanks for using the AT&T
There it is.
teleconference.
So there you go. He basically infiltrated the CNN conference call. You can follow Veritas on Twitter. I'll tell you what's really interesting about where we are with media, right? Here's what's really interesting. James O'Keefe did a show with young Pharaoh. Think about that for a moment. James O'Keefe from Project Veritas did a show with young Pharaoh, right? The crazy, wild, brilliant YouTuber that connects a lot of dots, does these 3-hour marathon shows. So you have James O'Keefe, who can bounce around from a major network, showing up on young Pharaoh. This is where the power of the new media is. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They're using AT&T. I know, right? Yeah, that was good. It was really good. You know what that is? That's True Note and Gemini stuff right there. That's communication. It's being the trickster, turning the tables on them, right? This is the power of the time. Is to learn how to, bend the rules and be a bit of a trickster and remind these people who are essentially gatekeeping truth in an illegitimate way, South Node in Sagittarius, that you can turn the tables on them and then hold the mirror up and show them just exactly what creeps they are. Okay. I'm done for the day. Thank you for being here. We'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to have Ayanna Slezik-Blatt, B-L-A-T-T. She's an author. And apparently she was also another person who had the wispy entity show up at one of her talks. So we'll get to talk to her about that. And then the Crimmies will be here for the first hour. She's an author on their publishing company, Logo Sophia. So the Crimmies and I will talk in the first hour, and then we'll bring Ayanna on in the second hour, and they're mostly going to interview her. I'll chime in with a few things, but it should be a really good show, and for a lot of different reasons. And I haven't talked with her personally, but I've read some of her emails, and she sounds just like an absolutely wonderful person. And she happens to be the wife of Jordan Fultz. So there you go. We're coming full circle with that. Okay. Be back tomorrow. I'll put a link in the show page if you want to donate, support. You know the drill. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to step what's possible. Just keep turning corners. Just keep turning corners, all right? We're going to get through this, and there will be something on the other side. It's a very, very important time to be alive. The stakes are incredibly high, and so are the rewards, okay? Hang in there, stay present, keep moving forward. We'll be back tomorrow. Mods, thank you very much. You're the best. In Chatlandia, hands down, fantastic chat room, one of the best on the internet. Take good care. See you tomorrow.